What's up, everybody? I'm Scott,
I'm Jason.
and you're listening to Liquid Carnage. What's up, my friend?
Oh, nothing much, man. I owe you nothing but high praise this week, my friend.
Oh, yeah? Well, yeah, that's true. We did play each other this weekend in our fantasy football league, and I
Yep.
squeaked one out.
It was one of those weeks where we both teams just decided to show up. I think we were the two highest scoring teams this week.
Which doesn't say much because we were not that we didn't score that many points.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, compared to everyone else, we scored a lot, but yeah, we didn't score like 200 or anything. But
I will share with you, and I know Tom doesn't like us talking about fantasy football, and I know we lose a lot of our listeners on this, so we won't spend a lot of time on it. But I have been struggling the last few weeks. I'm now 6-4 in third place in the league. I have Lamar Jackson and Tom Brady, and I've been struggling with who to start every week because normally Lamar Jackson would be you start him no matter what. But Tom Brady's been playing lights out with the exception of that Saints game last week.
yes,
And Lamar Jackson has not. So I think I've just got to finally pull the trigger and name Tom Brady my starting quarterback for my fantasy football team.
wow. I unfortunately am last place in our league.
Mm-hmm.
And I just noticed that, it's pretty bad when even your fantasy football team is affected by COVID. One of my players basically was scratched because of COVID, so I had to reschedule. And because of that reschedule, I lost that week as well. So let's just say that when COVID starts messing with your fantasy football team,
There's fatigue.
it's pretty shitty, man. I mean, this has gone on and gone on and gone on.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're not out of it yet. The nice thing is over the last few weeks, 2 pharmacy companies have announced that they are in stage 3 of their clinical trials. Pfizer announced that they have a vaccine that's 90% effective, but it has to be kept at such a cold, negative 77 degrees Celsius.
Oh.
Yeah, it's some insanely cold number to keep it okay. And then I forget the other company, Moderna. I'm not sure what the name of the company is. Came out this week and said they have a vaccine ready that will be ready by the end of December, hopefully at a 94% effective rate. It needs to be stored at only 36 degrees Fahrenheit.
Well, that'd be better.
Yes,
that'd be better.
Those are better numbers, and that begs the question. I saw this meme, and it's a very true meme, and I don't know, without getting into the science of it. How can we have something with such a high effective rate after 8 months where we've been dealing with a flu vaccine for 70 years and can only get 40%? Is it because there's so many strands of the flu? Is that what we're doing here?
Yeah, I don't know. I still don't know enough about how, when they say 94% effective, does that mean in the small trial that they've done, or does that mean that they tested, 40,000 people and it killed the vaccine, it killed the COVID?
Yeah, I think they have to they have to try 160,000 people total or something like that. It's some crazy number.
Okay.
So apparently the numbers there, the numbers are there and they look promising. But is it going to be a case of too little, too late? Because the season is running rampant with flu and colds because we are now in November going into the Christmas season. We learned over the summer that as a people, we are unable not to gather.
Yeah.
We especially when times are tough, you want to be around family. And
well, hey, thank goodness we're coming into a season where we don't do a lot of social gathering.
Absolutely, and
we're safe. We're totally safe,
and it's so warm outside that you just want to be outside all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, what could possibly go wrong?
Exactly.
I'm now nervous because, I've been nervous, but I see the numbers taking off and they're catching on fire. I see what's going on in politics and how that's just adding fuel to the fire, and that's just making things worse. And the worst thing is you don't know who to believe anymore. We've been depending on what news station you watch, it's either doom and gloom or this is a hoax. And people are tired, right? Is it just me, or is there total COVID fatigue?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm seeing is that. Now, to be fair, though, Arizona's actually, we've been more lenient, in my opinion, compared to other places.
We have.
And yet, relatively speaking, our numbers are staying somewhat controlled. compared to other parts of the United States where they are exploding. So, there's something to be said of, maybe in Arizona, because we do have a little bit warmer weather, it hasn't been spreading as quickly. Maybe there is something to be said there.
Yeah.
But I do think you're right. I think people just said, you know what, I can't live. I'll take my chances, basically, is what I get a sense that people are just, I'll take my chances.
Yeah, and I get it. And there's a fairly high percentage rate of survival and recovery on this. It's really only the people that have secondary and tertiary issues that this becomes a major problem for. But you still don't want to be one of those small percentage of people that it affects, and it takes you down for weeks,
Well, and I always wonder about myself. I feel like I'm in pretty good shape, but maybe I have one of those underlying triggers that messes me up, and I just don't know it.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. I don't want to find out that I'm healthy, and it turns out I'm not as healthy as I thought I was, and this is why. With our dad being in the hospital a few weeks ago, he's a lot more high risk now, so we have to be a little bit more vigilant about it.
Yeah.
And I remember walking through the ICU and seeing, at the time, we only had 3 COVID patients in there. It's back before we had to open our wing back up for COVID.
Yeah.
Where our hospital's at, and I just kept thinking to myself, man, my God, these people they've been on vents for 30 days.
Oh,
you've lost a month of your life to this, and they're not sure going to make it. Like, that is terrible. And then to hear people out here saying, well, it's a hoax. It's not that bad.
Do you think that there's still a lot of people out there that say it's a hoax, though?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I live, while you live in the booming metropolis of North Phoenix.
Yeah.
I live in what's the phrase I'm looking for? A hotbed of conspiracy theories and armadillo hat wearing conspiracy theorists. And I'll fully admit, I have gone on my own, bouts of conspiracy theories.
You like a good conspiracy theory, man.
I enjoy them. I think they're fun. But to call this a hoax after seeing it firsthand, I don't want to call it offensive, but it's a little offensive.
I thought we were kind of past it. It isn't a hoax, but it's not as scary as people. I thought we were at that point, but you're saying that what you've seen, that we're still at a point where people just think it's a hoax.
Yeah. And I don't know. I know it's not a hoax. I don't want to sit here and say it's not as bad, because we see a lot of athletes recovering fairly quickly from it. But also, those are people that have access to the best medical facilities and treatments than most of the rest of us have,
Right.
So I'm sure how well your health is matters. And I think, how many asymptomatic cases are out there too, because you hear a lot about those, and those are the scariest, because that's how you're spreading it. Well, you don't even know you're spreading it, to be honest.
Well, and I obviously I don't think it's a hoax at all. But I've also been very fortunate that I have been working from home, and I don't really expose myself too often to people or to situations where I might be infected, at least that I know about. So for me, it is kind of, I am socially tired as well. However, I don't feel like I'm putting myself, I'm being cautious. But yeah, I'm like everyone else. I'm getting tired. I mean, I'm getting really tired of being home, or not feeling like I can travel, not feeling like we can do anything. It's frustration.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is. It's how long can they keep us here? How long can it be like this? And the problem is, though, if we don't suck it up and just do it, and everybody's got to do it, it can go away, or it can be contained, and we can handle it. But I think as a country, as a people, they've done such a good job of dividing us over it. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, my biggest fear is always that I would get someone I care about sick. That's always a big concern for me, and maybe that's really the biggest part is, I think that there's some people that just, they care more about their own thoughts and not the betterment of all of us. So it's like the needs of the few are much more important than the needs of the many.
Yeah.
And I do get a little upset at people who, think, well, I'm not sick, so why should I have to wear a mask if I'm not sick?
Yeah. I had that conversation in the gym the other day. It was, well, where I'm from, they all have to wear masks, and it's raging out there. So do masks even work? I said, well, it prevents you from spreading it. So, and you don't know if you have it. And you look what you do for a living. You're out teaching and talking to everybody. So if you're not wearing one, you should be.
Yeah.
And it's. I guess it just depends to what level of news you want to get and you want to research on your own. And because it's a scary time still. And we're not out of this yet. I mean, the cavalry's coming with this vaccine, but it's still 3 or 4 months away.
Well, there you go. There, I've heard rumors that there are estimates, and I don't know how true they are, that 50% of the people won't take the vaccine even if it comes out, just because of how fast they're trying to rush it.
Well, that begs the other question: is all right? So this vaccine's out there. Do you take it?
Because a lot of people think that the vaccine is really just an exposure to COVID, like a flu shot. You're getting a portion of the flu, but it's going to build your antibodies. Now, I'm not sure if the COVID vaccine is the same way, but a lot of people have the misconception, or maybe it is the right conception, that they're not taking this because, one, they've rushed it. Two, it's being pushed by someone who has never taken the COVID seriously. So if he hasn't taken it seriously, why does he now think that taking the vaccine is taking it seriously? I mean, it's I think everyone, we said it before though, everyone's got to do what they feel is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And I've said it many times. Hey, if someone doesn't take it seriously and doesn't want to wear a mask, that's fine. I just have to maybe choose not to hang out with you as much.
Yeah.
Because you obviously don't care about my health. You don't care about your own health. And, I need to question that you have that feeling, if I need to kind of protect myself and not be around people like that.
Yeah.
Nothing personal. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. It's like we can hang out still, but just outside at a distance. That's fine.
Yeah, or we can Zoom. We can social Zoom all day long. I just don't need to be, high fiving, hanging out, and doing that stuff. But
yeah, I don't know. I think I'd just pass on Zoom and just see. I'll see when I see her.
What do you think the likelihood is? I mean, in our small circle of friends, well, not so small, but in our circle of friends, what are the odds that some or all of us are going to get COVID at some point?
I think the odds are good.
I think they're good, right? I mean, the odds are good that even as careful as we want to be in the next year or so, we're going to get infected with it.
Yeah, I was, talking about that with Janice the other night. It's like, it's for what we do. It's almost not if, it's when.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
It's a case of, we both know that we have jobs because she runs our COVID clinic. She's the manager, even though she works somewhere else. Half the time too. You put yourself in direct exposure, even wearing PPE, there's still a chance. I mean, it's small, but it just takes one of your staff members to have a lax moment. Hey! Sorry. It takes one staff member to have a lax moment, and it sets the whole world on fire. And then becomes a step down effect,
Right.
It turns into, well, I was around them here, so does that, but they were infected here. So when did the person actually start becoming infectious? And how many people were you around that you have to start quarantining again? Because that's the problem right now. We're back to that point where you have to, you have to quarantine. And part of this fatigue issue we found is like, people think like, well, I'll go back to work and get after my COVID test and then wait for the results. It's like, no, if you're going to get the test, you got to go home. You got to stay so you know what's going on. And people just don't want to do that.
What are your thoughts about, because I've heard this from people too, is that this like herd immunity, where basically just try to everyone get it so that we can just get everybody through it and then move forward.
I think the biggest problem we have with that is that a lot of scientists are seeing that the antibodies go away after 6 months. So herd immunity is becoming an issue. So
you get it. You're safe for a while, but it's not going to be safe forever.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
It's something like that. It's such a difficult time right now.
Yeah, because I mean, I look at it from, because part of me says, oh, maybe that is a good idea. Maybe we all just get it and then we're all in the clear.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at the numbers, and right now we're losing about 2 to 2.5% of those people that get infected.
Yeah.
Well, what's 2.5% of 350 to 400 million people?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? That's
yeah.
10 million people dead. I mean, I don't know if that's a solution for herd immunity to lose 10 million people.
Yeah.
So part of me is not leaning toward that there's got to be better ways to do it. I do wonder too why we haven't pushed faster testing, more testing as a way for people to know quicker, sooner if they're sick or not. And then to get them, into quarantine.
It's gotten faster as we've gone on. It's gone from 6 to 7 business days to normally you get it the next day.
Okay.
So or within 2 days usually now. So that helps, but still, it's convincing the people that if you have to get tested, you need to go home and stay home until you know the results, because this isn't, I tested negative, so I'm not going to get it. I don't have it. Right. This is, I tested negative means you don't have it yet. There's still an opportunity out there. And a lot of people aren't connecting those dots.
Well, and I do think that at some point people are going to have to come to the reality that when you look at the history of cases, the 2 times so far where they've shut down cities and states, the numbers go down.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say that to the people who say that, devastate us and devastate the economy. But the 2 times in our history where they did that, our numbers went down. So there's something to be said about the idea that, maybe shutting down again is the thing to do. I don't want to do it either. I don't think anyone wants to shut down. It's awful.
Yeah.
But history is showing that when we have shut down, the spread of the virus has slowed down. And we've been able to open back up and keep moving forward. But, there's such a push to reopen that it was not sustainable. And now we're finding that most states are so reluctant to shut down now, and the numbers are exploding. So
that's what you're finding in Arizona. And I think if we were going to do a shutdown, if the powers that be were smart, they'd shut it down over the Christmas holiday. The world slows down there in any way. And take the 2 weeks. You can go where you feel like you need to be for 2 weeks. But from that point forward, everything's shut down. You're there. Stay. Don't ask for Walmart to be open. Don't ask for mom and pop's hardware stores to be open. Everything is shut down. You have to have your groceries. Everything's got to be ready.
Yeah, and I'm sure that pro economy people say that's just not an option. You know, so I don't know what the answer is. I think for me it comes right back to every one of us has to make a decision about what our comfort level is. If someone's totally comfortable with going out, doesn't want to wear a mask, and they're not afraid of it, by all means go. The cynical side of me wants to say, and if you get it, I have no sympathy for you whatsoever. But I realize I don't want anyone to get it because it doesn't sound like it's an enjoyable experience. Even if your symptoms are somewhat mild, it doesn't sound like an enjoyable thing. That's just like we don't want people to get the flu, right? Yeah, it doesn't kill us, but we don't want people to get the flu. I don't want people to get COVID.
Yeah.
I certainly don't want people who are important in my life to get COVID. That's for sure.
Yeah. I have a person out there that she's having an operation. She's having a procedure on, so she had to get a COVID test because you have to be negative beforehand. And she tested asymptomatic positive, and it blew her mind. And then that started the whole downhill chain of, oh shit, who do I call? Where have I been? And just letting those people know of what happened. And you don't realize how far out you're spread until you have to sit down and figure out where you've been,
I remember back, I don't know if you were old enough to remember the AIDS crisis in the late 80s, early 90s, but I remember that was a huge thing, is that constantly people were saying, oh my gosh, I'm HIV positive. Who have I had physical relations with, or who have I, shared blood with, or and it was just like you said, you didn't realize the circle gets so big.
Yeah.
With that kind of tracing.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about government agencies doing the tracking, where they keep a database of where everyone is located and tracking people who come up with a positive test?
I mean, they already track us anyway. I mean, you have GPS in your phone. And that's from the Patriot Act back in 2001.
So the technology is in place to do a tracking.
Mm-hmm. Well,
What
if you look at most of your updates on your phone, a lot of us got that. Had to go in there and turn off like the COVID contact tracing because they just put it on there quietly, and that's a thing.
And what is it? I'm not sure. What is it?
I think it's the GPS thing. Just it just follows you and tracks you where you've been. So it's no different than like Life 360. It's an app my parents and I use, so I keep track of them when they go on vacation.
Right.
I can pull up the app and see where they're at any given point in time. So this is just really no different. So you can at least look and see. I mean, there's merits to it, and we're already doing it. And I think to me that's one of the fun parts of the conspiracy theory is, their government's putting a tracking chip in us. Like they don't have to. They have them in the cell phones, and you can't live without your fucking phone. So
true. Yeah. Very good point.
Why are they going to put a big old tracking chip in you when they don't need to, because you're playing on Facebook on your own tracking chip right now?
If you had to guess, what percentage of people's holiday plans will totally be different?
I'd say less than 30%.
Really? So you think that 70% of the people will do the same thing, whether it's go to the family gatherings or have people over to their house?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I think that a lot of the explanations will be, it's like, well, we're just trying to find some normalcy. And if we get it, we get it. It's the burnout. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's the burnout. We'll take the chance to see grandma because it could be your last Thanksgiving. Like, well, you're absolutely right. It could be grandma's last Thanksgiving because everybody came to see her. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation.
Right. Yeah. Well, my mom even got, I don't know if I mentioned this on one of the last episodes, but my mom actually got exposed to COVID. She was teaching a class, like a elderly learning class at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And one of the students, who she had been a volunteer poll worker for 2 weeks prior to the election, and she tested positive. And because of that positive test, they shut down the last 2 weeks of everyone's class in that program.
Oh, wow.
Now, my mom got tested, and she got tested, and it came back negative. So she wasn't, she didn't get sick, but her class got canceled. And, their students, they have like thousands of students that take classes of all different, I mean, not just my mom's, but all different classes,
Yeah.
So one test caused the whole program to shut down.
That's interesting to me. It's just,
or not one test, but one positive case.
Yeah, it's a very interesting time right now, and I think people, as we get more information about it and we do more research on it, I don't want to say we can get a little bit calmer about it, but we're getting better about it, and because we understand it more. And I was talking to someone this morning about it, about this whole thing, and we were talking about the vaccines and how fast they come out with it, and I was being very tongue in cheek, but it goes back to conspiracy theories. Like, well, if this is in fact man-made, I would hope that they have an antidote fairly quickly before they quote unquote accidentally release it into the wild. You don't make a biological weapon without without having an antidote for those people that you want to live.
Yeah. That was really tongue in cheek there, Scotty. Really tongue in cheek.
I'm just saying. I mean,
like now you look and it's like, wow. But it is interesting. You ever watch like Outbreak or any of those
Contagion,
super bugs, and you think that's exactly what we're talking about. It is so easy to spread things because we are a social species. That we don't thrive being by ourselves. We don't thrive being alone.
No, we're not. We're better as a unit. We're better as a group, and that's what. I think that's what's the most frustrating thing about this is because being together is what makes it go faster.
Right. And and I'm sure that like any, I would think it's almost synonymous with anything where everyone has a level of fight in them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you're put up in a situation where day in, day out, day after day for months, years, you get to a point where you say, I can't fight anymore. I'm done, you know. And this is one of those ones that we're seeing it daily,
Yeah.
where people just say, you know what, I don't care anymore. If I get it, I get it. I don't care.
Yeah.
You know, so far I don't want to get it, so I haven't hit that point, and I've kind of settled into living, you know, at home and, you know, kind of being self-isolated. I've noticed that, you know, I haven't been going out as much, so we had a little bit more money, so now we buy things, deliver it, and then make our house better. Like we bought one of those propane fire tables for our back patio, so we can sit out there at night and light the fire. And then Noreen bought a projector system where you can basically take the cable box, plug it into this projector, and you can watch TV outside. So we watched a movie outside on a 15-foot screen that she had purchased. So, you know,
cool.
We just make our home a little bit more enjoyable.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of people are doing. And I think as we move toward another potential slowdown, lockdown, you know, stay-at-home order, whatever you want to call it, I think people realize what they're going to do differently this time. And, you know, and they're going to make sure that if it wasn't as successful for you the first time, it's different this time, you know?
Maybe. I don't know what they could do different though, Scott. I mean, you know, we've seen this now 2 other times before where we locked down.
Well, I mean, when I say that, I mean like from a personal situation. Like, I'm a single when the first one happened, so I spent 6 weeks by myself every night, no matter what, laying in a hammock in my living room. I'm not exactly the healthiest, and now that, you know, I have a girlfriend in Janice and her daughters, our bubble has to be bigger because we have to accommodate each other with this, because we're not going to spend 4 to 6 weeks not seeing each other. It's just dumb.
So yeah, so basically you've gotten to the point where it's like, you know what, it's not worth it to isolate from each other, even if that poses a greater threat. You're fatigued. It's like, I'm not doing it. Yeah. I'm with you.
Especially if, you know, we're both, you know, working in an environment where we're exposed. Like, what's the point? I mean, if you're gonna get it, I'm gonna get it. So
I find it so interesting that these hospital systems, you know, where we're supposed to go to get better, are the breeding grounds of the disease, because the sick people are coming to get better and they bring it with them. That the people who work in the hospitals are more in line to get it than other people, just because of the exposure.
Yeah, you know? It's one momentary lapse in judgment could set you back 3-4 weeks.
And you know, as we start wrapping it up, maybe that's why you know, the stock market has been going up, because they made that announcement that those 2 companies were going to have a vaccine, or they're you know, there's positive work. And so maybe it's one of those things where, well, I'm not going to isolate anymore. I'll just take the vaccine and I'll just live my life again.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, hopefully. I mean, that's the idea of the vaccine. You can get back to normal, but we're still a long ways away from that. Like I said, the cavalry's coming, but we're still 3 or 4 months away.
Yeah.
No. So, as we wrap this up, I'll ask you: like, would you self-isolate again? Would you isolate? Would you lock down? If you are asked to, or are you completely over it? What happens, happens. Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, all at Liquid Carnage. If you have any more quarantine tips for our EP, Tom, he's up in Denver on a partial lockdown, if not a full lockdown by now. Hit him up on Twitter and Instagram at liquid_EP.
Awesome. You know, people, I think everyone just do what you need to do. If that means you're overcautious, fantastic. If it means you're undercautious, just let me know so I can make my own decisions as well. But we can all get through this, I promise.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That being said, be safe out there. Take care of yourself and take care of your people around you too.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. That was Scott. I am Jason. And as always, if you never know quite what to say, just have yourself some liquid carnage.